society. The Eden Age.
I took the Eastern tram into Eden Metropolis this morning. It was gold and glass, sleek as a thought, shaped like something remembered rather than engineered. Its walls were curved, translucent, shimmering faintly in the early light, as though the tram itself was breathing. Light passed through it like water through silk. It glided without friction, without resistance, not a sound, not a tremor. It was less a vehicle, more a gesture. The city never announces itself. It just seems to emerge, as if out of your own imagination. Glass dissolves into stone. Stone gives way to vine. And suddenly, the horizon is gone, softened into gold, green and terracotta geometry. The tram glides. No lurch, no cry of brakes. Only a hush, like wind in a long hallway. I watched the others, heads bowed, hands stilled. No one is anxious. No one fidgets. I used to find that unsettling when I moved here a decade ago. But now, the peace here is like a melody that you never get tired of. Being born in the old world and making it to Eden is no small feat. The culture shock is less about habits and more of an existential rebirth. Interestingly, Eden Metropolis didn't appear on Earth overnight. It began quietly, almost anonymously, in the second quarter of the 21st century. While the rest of the world surged forward with algorithms, greed, and perpetual crisis, something else took root in the heart of what was once known as Africa. It was subtle, local, untheorized. It didn't start as a rebellion. Neither did it ever promise to be in utopia. Its premise was simple. If utopia is what we imagine paradise to be, Eden was what we remembered it as. Our collective memory as a species leads us back to Eden, and restoring that was what humanity needed the most. Eden Metropolis. The center of this new reality was born from a convergence of memory, ecology, restraint, an unapologetic reverence for the human soul and the divine order. Over time, what began as an experiment in moral architecture unfolded into an alternate civilization operating on entirely different principles. Not opposed to the old world, but completely uninterested in imitating it. One doesn't simply travel into New Earth. You don't hop on a flight in Washington and arrive at Eden Metropolis. It must reveal itself to you. Perhaps one of the great mysteries of the 21st century was how the Earth seemed to split in two, not geographically, but spiritually. Two realities sharing one planet. One struggling to remember, one daring to evolve. The old world and new Earth. Between them, a threshold emerged, the memory field. The memory field is difficult to explain, especially to people outside Eden, people in the old world. It's not found on any map. It has no coordinates. It cannot be cracked or forced. Some say it hums just outside perception, like a melody you can't quite place. Others say it feels like downloading a memory that isn't yours, yet so familiar. You see, Eden does not open to ambition. It unveils itself to resonance, to that quiet internal alignment that can't be faked, a harmonic echo between the soul and something eternal. Most never feel it. Those who try to force it find themselves lost in loops, roads that defy logic, days that disappear, an endless quest for something they cannot name. The deeper they push, the less they recall, until even their desire to enter begins to fade. Those who try to break in find only confusion, roads that loop, landmarks that vanish, whole weeks lost to wandering, never quite sure what was real. And afterward, they forget. Not everything, just enough to doubt it ever happened. No one really knows for sure the criteria for being chosen to discover Eden. It is said that the secret was entrusted long ago to the Origin family, and even they and their descendants seldom speak of it. Some believe the revelation of how to reach Eden arrives in a moment of surrender. Others say it comes when the noise of the old world no longer has a hold on you. To those outside, in the old world, Eden is a myth. To those inside, it is memory restored. It is a civilization that was not invented, but remembered. A city you can only ever find once you answer the call of truth. The memory field was not always part of Eden. It was seeded into the city during a rare moment of disruption, when the first generation of the Origin family passed the mandate of leadership to the next. Until then, Eden had remained open, cautiously hopeful that the old world might one day meet it in peace. But the old world doesn't visit, it infiltrates. What came instead was subterfuge. The United Nations and the tangled web of secret societies beneath it sent envoys masked as diplomats, researchers cloaked as aid workers. They didn't come to learn, they came to take. Ideas, technology, resources, secrets they couldn't begin to understand. That's when the custodians activated the memory field, as an act of preservation, not retaliation. It was not to punish, but to protect what had finally begun to emerge. A safeguard against the old world's appetite for control. The field became a kind of membrane, porous only to humility, to resonance, to those who came not to conquer, but to remember. Eden is not surrounded by a wall. Instead, it's a memory veil. It's said the memory field responds to intention. Those driven by greed or conquest simply lose their way. The city folds itself from them. Roads don't lead where they should. Time fractures. Perception blurs. Eden becomes myth again. From that moment on, New Earth, for all intents and purposes, became unreachable. Interestingly, the memory field doesn't wipe out your memory of the old world. It simply reframes it. If I could describe it in simple terms, it feels like seeing a childhood photo for the first time in years and noticing what had always been missing. It overlays your past with a deeper pattern, a truer geometry. The noise, the urgency, the posture of survival, all of it fades, slowly, like mist lifting from a still lake. And now, standing here in this tram, I can barely remember what urgency felt like. The rules of life in Eden are not taught, they are etched in your spirit. It's as though, once you pass through the memory field, you begin to live by a sacred instinct. You don't try to be good, you simply forget how to be cruel. You don't practice restraint, you just remember it as home. To someone like me, raised in scarcity, distraction, and spectacle, that realization felt like an existential unmaking, and perhaps the beginning of becoming someone else entirely. It was a rebirth of sorts, a metamorphosis. It felt like I was shedding my humanity for something new. I leaned into the window of the tram, forehead near the curved pane, eyes following the endless horizon like a child tracing the riverbed. Every building feels considered. The cities were not designed, not efficient, not aesthetic, more like nature, but yet undeniably architectural. Even the buildings seemed to remember something, I can never tell what. The city was buzzing with life, yet everywhere I looked, there was no haste. No one hurried. The people moved with a practiced ease, as if time were an ally, not a master. They dressed like royalty, not in opulence, but in intention. Each fabric seemed to carry memory, purpose, reverence. Divinity lived in the folds of their garments, not as symbol, but as inheritance. Much of the technology, if we can even call it that, is unlike anything from the old world. For one, there's the presence of ubiquitous nanoparticles in the air, a golden, intelligent dust that was always in perpetual motion. It shimmered faintly, not unlike pollen carried by a breeze, but with purpose. It would glide between buildings, pass through gardens, dance in spirals above rooftops. Its use is difficult to describe. It carried information, managed repairs. It helped people communicate with each other, and with Eden itself. Not just through devices, but through the very air. It mended broken infrastructure before anyone noticed the damage. It adjusted climate subtly within each district. It conveyed mood and need between people who hadn't even spoken. It made the city feel less like a place and more like a companion, alive, listening, and gently responsive to every life it sheltered. This golden particulate, referred to by some locals as the breath, was a network, a living system of sensing and sharing. It collected no data for ownership, only context for care. When it touched a surface, the surface responded, pulsed, whispered back in a blue light. When it moved through someone's skin or clothing, it left no residue, only a subtle warmth and the ambient blue glow. It made even the air feel alive. A kind of ambient consciousness that watched without control, responded without command, loved without needing to be noticed. I watched as some particles rejoined a Mobius strip loop that hovered above the entire city. Other forms of technology were present, but modest. They integrated seamlessly into reality. No one clutched a screen. Instead, small holographic interfaces floated gently at wrists, used only when needed. People also had contact lenses that helped you create an integrated reality. The spiritual, virtual, and physical layers of existence were fused. Reality shimmered in multiple wavelengths, yet never overwhelmed the senses. It all moved in harmony. Animals that were once considered wild walked next to humans. Children rested against lions in the shade. A cheetah waited patiently as a young woman tied her sandal. A giraffe, graceful as wind, paused beside me, plucking fruit from a tree that grew out of a sidewalk made from golden clay. The golden roads and pathways of the city glowed softly with blue light wherever foot or wheel passed over it, like energy acknowledging presence. The pulse of the city seemed to come from beneath our feet. From above, the city stretched like a movie written by nature and directed by man. Earthborn architecture pulsed with a golden glow. Structures grew out of the ground like mountains. Nature wove through every surface. Trees taller than every memory of every human that ever lived crowned plazas where people gathered. Technology breathed in the air. Particles like fireflies, darting, landing, sending pulses of light through walls that responded as if alive. The beauty of Eden is beyond what any words can describe. I had been instructed to go to the Grand Library. No reason was given, but in Eden, few reasons are. It was important because the Grand Library is the administrative heart of Eden Metropolis, and Eden itself is the cradle city of the new Earth. To be summoned here is not unlike being personally invited to the White House in the Old World, except the power here doesn't shout. I was being invited into the conscience of a civilization. I began to walk, or hover. It's hard to tell the difference here. No vehicles within 6 blocks. only foot traffic. The closer I came, the quieter it became. And not an artificial quiet, no engineered white noise. It was the silence of 1,000 small permissions being honored at once. No interruption, no assertion. The grand library does not tower. It ascends, slowly, symphonically, like a revelation. Its golden spires rise with a reverent restraint, flanked by vertical gardens that breathe with the wind. Terraces bloom with wisdom, each level a sanctuary of memory wrapped in living architecture. The building itself feels less constructed and more like nurtured into existence. Gilded earthed stone and bioluminescent lines pulsing gently across its surface like veins of thought. A soft golden light flows through every seam, rising toward a singular spire at its peak, where the Mobius strip hangs in the air, unmoving, untouched, eternal. The grand library does not only draw the eye in, it draws the soul. And the closer you get, the quieter everything becomes. All roads curve inward, as if leading toward the heart of the earth. You begin to walk slower. You begin to listen. The library does not announce itself. It allows you to arrive, only to discover yourself bare before its magnificence. I paused at its threshold. It is said that the library is the only building in Eden with no private entrance, no side doors, no back gates. Everyone enters the same way. Inside, the air had a certain weight that felt otherworldly. Light poured in through crystalline windows, refracting softly across the atrium like morning through a cathedral of memory. The space opened upward with reverence, not just for height, but for breadth. Columns rose like trunks of ancient trees, alive with flowing script and slow pulses of bioluminescence that moved as if following some unseen rhythm. The ceiling arched in golden symmetry, latticed with vine-like circuitry and soft roots that dangled, humming faintly. Wooden beams, smooth and living, curved across it. Not archaic, not merely functional, just correct. The air was charged, but gently so, like standing in a place that remembered being prayed into existence. Beneath my feet, the floor shimmered, a living stone that responded with a subtle vibration, not unlike a purring animal or the deep hum of a distant choir. I couldn't tell if it was mechanical or musical. Maybe both, maybe neither, maybe something older. This was not just architecture, it was its own atmosphere. The Grand Library was not a place you entered, it was a place that entered you. A woman met me just beyond the threshold, as if she had been expecting me. She wore no uniform, only a silver band at her wrist. "The Prime Custodian will see you now," she said. No name, no title, just that. We walked, past open reading chambers, some full of citizens in quiet dialogue, past memory walls where thin strands of light connected archived testimony to current policy. I had seen diagrams, but presence reshapes understanding. I used to think of libraries as repositories. This is not that. It is function. It is memory braided into governance. The laws here are not stored in books. They are stored in context. We stopped before a door of pale, unfinished wood. The woman nodded. I stepped in. The room was smaller than I expected. There was a window, a low table, 2 chairs, no desk. A kettle of something herbal steamed between us. And the Prime Custodian, younger than I imagined. It's strange, isn't it? You'd expect everyone in New Earth to know what the one member of the Origin family who was serving as Prime Custodian looked like. In the old world, we memorized the faces of presidents, royalty, CEOs. Power was always trying to be seen. But Eden is not like that. There is no politicking here, no campaigning, no charisma contests. There is only duty, quiet, unwavering, often anonymous. Leadership here is not personality-driven, it is principle-bound. The Origin family leads not by presence, but by restraint, by remembering instead of performing. That's the strange part. In Eden, power is invisible because it isn't trying to be noticed.
Ezra, welcome to the Grand Library, he said, looking up. His voice carried a familiarity that caught me off guard. If I recall correctly, you were a reporter in the old world, yes? He asked it like someone greeting an old friend. Not formally, not even curiously, but with the quiet confidence of someone who had already seen this moment arrive. I nodded, surprised that he knew. You witnessed more than most, even when there was nothing left to gain by telling the truth. That is why you were invited. Eden remembers those who remembered others. There was no compliment in his tone, no praise, just recognition, like stating a fact. You speak like we've met before, I said as he paused to brew fresh rose-leaf tea. We haven't, but Eden knows you. It remembered your truth long before you did. I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. Eden doesn't choose at random, nor does it reward effort. It responds only to coherence. He met my eyes, not to explain, only to confirm something I hadn't fully understood yet. You aligned. That's enough. You traveled here from Solandia, yes? I nodded again. Solandia, where I live in New Earth, is a city district built on the ocean. Not a coastal city, not a port. Solandia was on the ocean. Suspended across layered basins, its structures floated like open lotus blossoms, tethered to submerged roots of bioengineered coral and crystal. Describing where it sits in relation to Eden is difficult. In the old world, we measured distance in miles, time in minutes. But here, distance is something else. The geography of New Earth is emotional, intuitive. Cities unfold through coherence. Transit is more about alignment than arrival. To someone from the old world, it's like trying to describe a dream in the language of traffic reports. You saw the ocean gardens on your journey here? He added. Yes, they are magnificent. How long was your trip here? To Eden from Solandis? He asked it casually, but I could sense something behind the question. Something deeper. I paused. It's hard to say, I replied. Time moves differently in New Earth, and distance isn't what it used to be. He nodded, already knowing. In the old world, he said, journeys were measured in hours and miles. Here, they're measured in coherence. The more your inner world aligns with Eden's rhythm, the faster you move. He poured more tea, his hand steady, patient. Some citizens can appear anywhere in Eden simply by thinking of the place. For others, the path must be uncovered slowly, by walking it, by waiting, by aligning. Some travel by tram, others by foot, guided not by maps but by coherence. And then there are those rare few who move faster than thought itself. Their intuition carries them before their intention catches up. They don't plan their journeys. They're already where they're needed, as if the reality itself moves around them. I held the cup in both hands. The warmth steadied me. So how long did it take you, Ezra? He asked again, gently. As long as it needed to, I answered. He smiled. That was enough. He looked at me then, not as a custodian, but as a man. His tone softened. And you, Ezra, he asked. How has life been for you here, since crossing into New Earth? I hesitated. No one had asked me that. Not like this. Strange, I said. At first, it felt like being gently dismantled, like everything I built to survive in the old world had no use here. But then, it became quiet, and I realized I wasn't being dismantled. I was being remembered. I was being put together in the right order. He nodded slowly, as if hearing something confirmed. It is a mystery, isn't it? Sometimes the price you must pay to become who you're meant to be is who you once were. We sat with that for a while.
Then, after our shared pause, he asked,
Ezra, is there something you've always wanted to know about New Earth? He didn't ask it like a man offering answers. He asked it like someone giving permission. The reporter in me stirred. The part that never stopped asking, even when it should have. I looked into my tea, as if the question was steeping in the cup. I've always wondered how this all began, I said finally. Not the architecture, not the systems, but this. The spirit of it, the shift, the turning. How did it happen? How did it start? He sat back slightly, not surprised, almost as if he had been waiting for that exact question. It's the only question citizens born into the old world ever really ask, he said quietly, and the only one we never rush to answer. Because no one can say for certain when a seed becomes a tree. He leaned forward, his voice lower now. The answer to that question isn't fixed, because the genesis of New Earth, even though it was born from a singularity, was never a singular event. It was a convergence, a slow, hidden blooming. Some say it was an act of God, and that isn't far from the truth. Others call it a project, a vision, a movement. Some think it was a revolt against modernity. Some say it was simply a community that refused to forget. Even within the descendants of the origin family, you'll hear different answers, each one personal, each one shaped by how they were called into the memory of Eden. For me, however, it's a song that arrived like light breaking through fog. No battle cry, no manifesto, just melody. Slow, spacious, deliberate. The kind that doesn't demand attention, but transforms you by the time you notice you've been listening. That's how New Earth began. Not with noise, but with resonance. It did not impose itself on the world. It harmonized with those ready to remember. The custodian stood and walked to the far side of the chamber where a small alcove had been carved into the stone, barely lit. From within it, he retrieved a long, hexagonal crystal, deep violet at its core, with veins of gold and soft, pulsing blue running through it like breath. It shimmered in the low light, casting spectral echoes on the walls around us. He cradled it with both hands, not as one would hold technology, but as one would hold inheritance. This, he said, is how the song was preserved. Not written, not composed, just found. Or perhaps it found us. My father told me the song was already there when he first heard it. His father said the same, and his father's father too. No one ever claimed to have written it. No author, only memory. As though the melody had been lying in wait inside this crystal all along. He placed it on the table before us. The crystal responded to contact with a soft hum. My father sang it to me every night, he said, his voice almost a whisper. He was the Prime Custodian before me, and his father sang it to him. No one taught it. It was never written down. It passed like breath through our lineage. The first time I heard it, I didn't exactly understand the words, he continued. But I remember how it made me still, how it tuned the room, how it taught me something long before I could name it. He did not explain further. He just let the music play.
There was once a little child who sat at his father's feet. Every night he would learn what it takes to become a king. His father was wealthy and wise, respected by all it seemed. He knew how to rule and lead, and how to keep the peace. Every night I'd sit by the fire, to hear his father speak. His father told him many, many things, of war and of peace. Ooh, he said a king is built in secret long before the crown is forged. You don't rise by seas in power, but when you lay yourself down, power fades but kindness endures. It outlives both sword and throne. When all is said and done, your crown is how you're known. I was once a little child, young and frail and learning still. My father said to me, you must be kind to become king. My father was wealthy and wise, respected by all it seemed. He knew how to rule and lead, and how to keep the peace. Every night I'd sit by the fire, oh, to hear my father speak. My father told me many, many things of war and of peace. He said a king is built in secret long before the crown is forged. You don't rise by seas in power, but when you lay yourself down, power fades but kindness endures. It outlives both sword and throne. When all is said and done, your crown is how you're known. I remember my little child who sat at the feet of my throne. Every night he'd ask me why and what it takes to be king. He said, Father, you're wealthy and wise, respected by all it seems. You know how to rule and lead, and how to keep the peace. Every night he'd sit by the fire, to listen to me speak. told him many, many things of war and of peace. I said a king is built in secret long before the crown is worn. I didn't rise by seizing power, but when I laid myself down, power fades but kindness endures. It outlives both sword and throne. When all is said and done, my crown is how I'm known. My crown is how I'm known. My crown is how I'm known. My crown is how I'm known.
You're now watching Eden Society. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
The song unfolded slowly, like everything in Eden often does, one note at a time, echoing in depth through the room. The melody was sparse and intentional. Space between notes felt more alive than the notes themselves. It sounded like memory, like something older than language, like a lullaby whispered by a father to a child, then passed from breath to breath until it became a rhythm in the bones of a people. That was the beginning. That was the seed. And now it was in the room with us, alive again. What do you do when the answer to your greatest question isn't a fact or a theory, but a song your own soul seems to already know by heart? What can be written about something that transcends understanding and settles instead into awareness? It was the most disorienting piece I had ever felt. This wasn't the kind of revelation you could publish. It wasn't built for headlines. It couldn't be translated into any of the languages the old world held dear. Power, efficiency, spectacle. What I heard in that melody wasn't just origin, it was orientation. It wasn't a doctrine, it was a remembering. A tuning of the inner world to something older, more sacred.
The heart of the song wasn't power, it was kindness. The heart of the most advanced civilization wasn't power, it was kindness. Kindness, not as sentiment, but as design, as inheritance, as crown. I looked at him then, still holding the warmth of the song in my heart, and asked the only question that made sense. Was this enough to change the course of history? The custodian didn't hesitate. Kindness is the greatest miracle, he said gently. Every time anything that could be considered a miracle happens, it happens because one human being, flawed as he may be, chose to be kind to another. He poured the last of the tea into his cup. Kindness. Without it, nothing else works. Not faith, not destiny, not hope, not serendipity, not karma, not happenstance, not even love. He looked up at me with a stillness that was almost reverent. Human kindness is the one miracle that makes every other beautiful thing in our lives possible, whether we deserve it or not. And that's what makes it so incredibly valuable. It fuels all the good on earth. I sat with that, not to analyze it, but to feel it. A civilization built on kindness was enough to change the course of human history and split the world in two. And as I had come to learn, it was more than enough to change me. We sat in silence for a few moments longer, the song still echoing softly in my mind like a bell struck in another lifetime. The Prime Custodian simply watched me without any urgency. He just watched.
as if witnessing something he'd already seen 100 times. Then he placed a hand gently on the crystal and closed his eyes. Suddenly, something started to shift in the room. It started subtly. I noticed the weight of the cup in my hand shift, as though gravity had lost confidence in its own rules. My vision wavered. It wasn't blurred, but curved, as if light had begun to move in spirals around the custodian. It wasn't distortion, it was reverence, like reality itself was preparing to let him go. The Prime Custodian stood slowly, and though his feet were still on the ground, he no longer felt anchored. The air around him shimmered, bending inward, as if the room was trying to remember the exact space he occupied. I watched in awe as the golden threads of the breath began to gather at his shoulders. He looked at me one last time. "Ezra," he said softly, "there are answers even I will never be able to give you. But remembering the part you're to play in the new world, that is your task now. The song was never meant to end in one room." And then, without fanfare, without farewell, he was gone, and so was the crystal. I wouldn't say he vanished. It felt more like he was stepping into another meeting, only perhaps 1 or 2 dimensions away from the room he had sat with me in. But the music, that song has stayed with me ever since. It followed me everywhere, into the streets, into the quiet, into sleep. Some days it was just a hum, echoing faintly behind thought. Other days I would hear the melody sung in the rustling of leaves, in the cadence of strangers greeting each other, in the rhythm of my own breath. Once, I even heard a child whistling a fragment of it as she skipped past a mural of stars. It became the thread stitching the ordinary into something sacred. I didn't know how long I sat there after he left, only that time had unraveled itself into something dreamlike. At some point I stood, or perhaps I was lifted by something unseen. My feet touched the ground, but I felt no weight. My body moved, but it wasn't mine alone. From that moment onward, something shifted in me. Eden had opened up a new depth of experience. It wasn't dramatic, it was subtle, profound. I began sensing the invisible threads that tied one person's joy to another's relief. I started noticing how laughter in one plaza birthed joy in another. How people walked differently around me, not out of reverence, but recognition, as if I had joined a frequency they already lived on.
Slowly, I began to see how kindness was not just encouraged here, it was embedded. It was the DNA of New Earth. Not kindness as sentiment or performance, but the kind that asked for nothing in return. The kind you don't announce, the kind you don't measure, the kind you become. Unconditional kindness, subtle, unwavering, and sovereign. It formed the current beneath conversation, law, governance, and memory. It was etched into the city's architecture, its rituals, its very rhythm. Kindness was not an act, it was the atmosphere. And once you tuned into it, you realized it was everywhere, not imposed, but remembered. And that's when I understood. Eden didn't survive because it was defended. It endured because it was kind. Every beautiful thing I had seen since arriving here was built on that one hidden pillar. Kindness made the world coherent, and coherence made this civilization possible. In the days that followed, I found myself responding to life differently. I no longer rushed to offer opinions. I listened more than I spoke. I noticed things that once felt invisible, how someone moved when they were tired, how a bird sang just before dusk, how silence wasn't absence, but presence. The song kept playing, always just beneath the noise of the day, always leading me inward. And I realized, perhaps this is how Eden expands, not by conquest or conversion, but by resonance, by one life quietly embodying a different way until others feel its warmth and follow. Kindness is how New Earth began,
and kindness is how it will continue. That is the story I was sent to tell. Or perhaps, the story I was always meant to live.
The Eden age.